Hey everyone, Privileged Scum here. Like most anti-SJWs, I saw this video titled Reasonable Questions for Anti-SJWs by Chrissy Winters, a profound feminist. And I just decided to masturbate to it for the rest of my life, but I decided I'm just going to answer all of the questions. The point is that there were a lot of dumb, retarded questions at the start.
What is it with you people and committing actual literal felonies?
Which I didn't feel as if provided a basis for a healthy conversation. So instead, I'm just going to answer the questions on the first part of the video, which is the video you're watching now about feminism. And then the second part will be on discrimination. So it'll be separated, and you can watch whichever ones you find necessary. And it'll be ideal if you watch both, but you're a free person. You can do whatever you want. So getting on with the video with the first question.
In videos and in the comment sections, anti-feminists often take up the most extreme or the weakest feminist position they can find, or they just straight up misrepresent what the feminist position is. Instead, why not take up the strongest, most robust feminist argument you can find and really challenge yourself?
Here's my challenge to you. Why don't you give me your strongest feminist argument, which it can be the patriarchy, which has been disproven several times. It could be the wage gap, which has been disproven several times. It could be the rape culture, which has been disproven several times, including the 1 in 5 college women getting sexually assaulted. So all these famous feminist arguments, they've all been disproven by sound and clear logic. So how about you give me your strongest argument, and then I'll disprove that as well.
I am deeply concerned with male addiction rates, suicide rates, and abuse rates, because I have worked with these issues in the quote-unquote real world. Would you be willing as anti-feminists to put aside your differences with feminists for the greater good of addressing these issues, especially as the kind of solutions needed are not necessarily gendered? And if so, I would actually like you to let me know, because I'm not fucking around or presenting any gotchas here. I actually really think that we could get something done if we work together. So, yeah.
Sure. If it's any way I can possibly help, I'll try to lower male addiction rates.
What is third wave feminism?
Oh my fucking god, Steve Shives.
Because I've often heard you folks insist that you have no objection to feminism in general. It's specifically third wave feminism that you have a quarrel with. So what is third wave feminism specifically? And what specifically about third wave feminism do you have such a problem with?
I really do not want to answer his question because he's a disingenuous prick. But for the sake of being morally superior to him, which I want to be, I wouldn't say that about anyone else, but this prick, I will answer his question. So, third wave feminism, to me, is what came after the first and second waves of feminism. Seems logical. So the first wave feminism, at least in theory and in practice, was about the women's right to vote, so the suffrage movement. Second wave feminism was about the Equal Pay Act of 1963. Third wave feminism has been a cult of victimhood, in which there's an actual belief that there's still a patriarchy. Hope that explained your question, prick.
Why is it that this feminist represents all feminists, but this men's rights activist doesn't represent all men's rights activists?
Whoa, wait, sexism all of a sudden? Ladies and men are different? So we're supposed to punch men and not hit ladies and open doors for men but not ladies? Fuck you, get out of my face, you tiny piece of shit.
That is actually the first properly fair question of this whole video. That is the feminist part that I found. Okay, fair question. No one has ever said that Trigglypuff represents all feminists. Obviously not. But the point is that she represents the worst parts of feminism. Fat, ugly snob who doesn't want to conduct herself properly. Now, there's probably a minority in the feminist movement, but it's still the worst part of the feminist movement. And the same can be offered to, I don't know if he's actually a men's rights activist. I don't know who this guy is, but he just acted like a prick, so I wouldn't consider all men's rights activists to be pricks. So it's fair to say that Trigglypuff represents the worst parts of the feminist movement, but is not representative of all feminists. And the men's rights activist in that video does not represent all men's rights activists.
Why am I continually asked to answer for the views of feminists if I agree with feminism's overall aims, but don't agree much with those particular feminists? Does that mean that I can ask you to answer for anybody who labels themselves similarly to you, even if you don't agree much?
No, that wasn't the argument to begin with. The point is that feminism is not needed in the Western world. How about you can start by answering that question and rebutting that?
If SJWs are bad because they spend too much time whining and don't talk about real problems, then why aren't you talking about those problems instead of just whining about the other people over and over and over for literally years? I mean, in the scale of priorities, that's like even lower, right? You know, you've got the real problems, you've got the things that feminists worry about.
Sexual assault and racism. As if only feminists care about sexual assault and racism. Fuck you.
And then you've got you going, oh, how dare they? Just, how dare they have different priorities from me? Why can't they do what I do? Whine about whining. Forever. For a living. That's healthy.
Okay, prick, let me answer your question. I do talk about real issues, like electing Donald Trump for being president. You may not agree with that, but that doesn't mean that I am not focusing on the real issues. Most anti-SJW YouTubers and anti-SJWs in general focus on real issues, like when women were mass raped in Cologne. What did the feminists talk about? Oh, it's not all Muslims. That was a real issue being obfuscated by feminists. Answer that, bitch.
Why don't you seem as concerned with actual feminist theory in academia as you are with wrecking people for views?
I mean, I don't encounter many feminists from academia. I can't see Trigglypuff and idiots like that on YouTube every day. That kind of answers itself.
Since so many of you profess to be admirers of second-wave feminism as opposed to third-wave feminism, I thought it would be interesting to ask which second-wave feminists in particular do you appreciate? Which books written by second-wave feminists have you read and found interesting? Which second-wave feminist activists have you specifically admired as you formed the opinion that you like second-wave feminism but you have no use for third-wave feminism? I'm just curious.
Steve Shives again. Sure, you prick. Okay, let's use his logic in a different sphere. Let's just say that I'm of the opinion that, racism is not an issue today, but I applaud the works of abolitionists in getting rid of slavery. Now, this smug question will come back to me and it'll ask, okay, which abolitionists have you read? And which abolitionists do you admire who are activists? So the point is that to appreciate the work of getting the Equal Pay Act, why do you have to read second-wave feminists? In the same way as believing that slavery should be abolished, why do you have to read abolitionists? Steve Shives is so smug that he'll ask people questions like these, but if you want to have an actual conversation with them, you can't. If you follow someone like Milo Yiannopoulos, because he has a huge block bot, and he lives in his own echo chamber. Well done, fucking moron.
You do understand that reading the title of a book or an article or watching the first 15 seconds of a video is not going to give you a deep, nuanced understanding of what that book or article or video is about, right? That being said, how can you expect to understand or critique feminist sources if you don't even attempt to understand what they're trying to say?
I know what they're trying to say, is that there's a wage gap and rape culture. And both those hypotheses have been disproven several times. It's not as if I'm going over their arguments and then creating a straw man for what they believe. I'm just saying that they believe in these things and they're all false.
Why is trying and failing to debunk a study into sexual assault the #1 priority for a rational thinker now? Does it maybe say something about your priorities? Does it maybe? Nah, it's fine, it's the feminazis, we have to stop them. They're taking away our video games. Look, Anita, I'm sorry, but we can't actually destroy video games. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay. I mean, it's not as if it was a stupid question to begin with, and the ending was also stupid. Invoking Gamergate into sexual assault studies, where the fuck did that come from? But let's answer your question. Let's give you the benefit of the doubt. The thing about sexual assault is that it affects real people. And it is, in feminist words, problematic. So when a woman gets sexually assaulted, I'll be the first to say, go report that, and the person who did it should be jailed. He should be behind bars. Feminist bunk theory says anyone can be sexually assaulted without any due process. They can just say that this guy assaulted me, and you should believe me for my word, which is bunk theory. And so when they come up with studies such as 1 in 5 college students are raped who are female, it is verifiably bullshit. And it then tells females that they have a 20% chance of being sexually assaulted while in college, which is, as it has been proven, false. My issues with these studies is that it is false, for one, and secondly, it takes away from people who are being actually sexually assaulted and who have actually been sexually assaulted. And it undermines what the word actually means. So there you go. That's been the whole video about answering questions from feminists and about feminism. Next up, we'll be answering questions on discrimination.